Hey there, it's Dan from the Salty Sea, and today I'm going to mix it up a little bit and talk about a Brawl deck that I found myself playing a lot during the Thanksgiving break. It's around Snapdax Apex of the Hunt, which is the Mardu Apex from back in Ikoria days, and does some damage and gets its aggro on, so let's talk about the deck. The deck really only has, three pieces to it, really. You're just going to want to put a lot of cheap targets for mutations onto the board quickly, and then run some good mutators, and also finish it off with just random good stuff. You're going to be mostly looking for your removal with this, and then a few other solid cards. So things like Murderous Rider, Bone Crusher Giant, things like that are going to be great. But this is Brawl. For me, the point of Brawl is to have fun, not have to feel stressed grinding ladder. So, don't sweat the details too much. If you do have the MDFCs, though, Amarius Call, Agadine's Awakening, etc., really do play them, especially Agadine's Awakening. With how many ones and twos you have, just a 5 mana one will totally recover you from a board wipe and then let you Snapdax the next turn, even if they have one removal spell. Something sorcery speed on their turn, you're still going to untap with one of them. So let's talk about what kind of early beaters you want to have. This Mardu version of Mutate really wants to beat down, so you have to get on the board early. So the ones and twos are the most valuable. 3 is worth it only if they've just got a really incredible set of abilities. And part of the reason for this is that most other Brawl decks, they have a pretty broken end game. People tend to take the fact that you've got 25 life and most aggro decks aren't that fast. People take that as a license to build for the super late game. So you're going to want to get on quickly and then disrupt them. So that's why you see a lot of Hatebears here on this list. These are small creatures, but your mutators are going to be what brings the beef. So having these cheap creatures give you sort of disruptive abilities is really valuable. So something like Hushbringer or Eidolon of Obstruction, something that gives you a fighting chance at just kind of taking out a big swath of your opponent's deck, I found to be really successful. Now, cards that just get big or just attack are okay, as long as they do it really, really well. So Mothra's Cocoon is pretty good for it, and so is the Core Double Striker. Just a 1/1 double strike for 2, and it doesn't work with Snapdax, but it powers up some of your other mutators really intensely. So let's talk about some of the other mutating cards that are in here. There weren't a ton printed, to be honest. So we play pretty much every playable mutator that we can get our hands on. So we skipped things like Majestic Auricorn or the Parakeet, which I was kind of disappointed by, but I think the only good mutator that I didn't end up playing was Cloudpiercer. That one's actually pretty solid, but I just didn't do it. This deck is mostly white-black with just a little bit of red. So, what we're really looking for is things that disrupt the opponent, or just put a ton of beef out there and close the game quickly. So the 2 white ones here, Cub Warden and Vulpikeet, they can create some pretty overwhelming board states. And then the 3 black ones sort of do the opposite. They really mess with your opponent, and they do a great job at it too. If you go Cavern Whisperer and then Snapdax on something, your opponent can just be totally out of gas by the late game. We do, though, kind of wish that we had more options here. So, Watsy, anytime you want to help us out with that second mutate set, let me know. So that's about it for the cards we're playing. As I said, the non-mutators and non-targets, we're not really sweating the details with those. Whatever you've got, put that in there as far as other removal and maybe some other nice top-end cards. But don't sweat the details. Don't burn wild cards on it. This is Brawl after all. So let's get into some games. All right, so we're going to play a couple games here. First one's going to be against Beavis on playing Thassa. I think this is the Blinky one. And this hand's pretty good. Anytime you have something that you can mutate onto, especially plus that Arcane Signet, it's really nice. And then Agadeem's Awakening might get some value here, but probably not given that we're playing blue and they don't kill a lot of stuff. But we are going to get a really aggressive opening because we're going to go with Everquill Phoenix on the next turn. And that Plains is a nice draw because it means we don't have to play our Crypt if we don't want to, so we can wait. Sorry, Crypt of Agadeem is not the thing. But here we get in for 4 on turn 3, which is pretty quick in Brawl. Not every deck can handle this kind of aggression, although that Labyrinth and the Altar mean that our opponent's going to have a pretty good late game, and they might be able to shut down our sort of one big attacker strategy. But here we do get to attack for 8, which is really nice, and then maybe next turn we get to play a trick with Feat of Resistance, who knows. But here they've got half their life total gone already by you know, before they've even had their 4th turn, which is really nice for us. I hope we don't end up seeing a bunch of 8/8 Krakens from that thing. Okay, so roaming Ghostlight, gonna bounce our whole board, make us have to restart from scratch. And it might happen again next turn if they just play Thassa as well, but we can't actually afford to play the Charger and Snapdax on the same turn, so we'll just make a 4/4, force them to deal with it or be in trouble again, and we get a whole bunch of feathers, so if this thing ever does die, we'll be bringing it back for days. Okay. Alright, so they are going to play Thassa and Thassa's Oracle, which means they're going to have pretty perfect draws for as long as they want to, although right now they're under pressure to bounce our guy, our little Phoenix. So here this is alright. We can destroy their Ghost Light if we need to, and then maybe Banishing Light something next turn if they don't deal with our board, which is nice. So we can hopefully avoid getting bounced into Oblivion and then figure out a way to go wide around that Labyrinth later. So we'll see what they do here. They're thinking over, they're reading Snapdax a lot. I wonder if they're worrying about bouncing it. They've got 4 counters on their Ominous Seas. So we've got a little bit of time. Definitely not blocking this Thassa. Yeah, taking that damage is fine. And then they get to sculpt their draws a little bit more. Let's see what they play. I guess they can't know it's over, so I guess them holding up a lot of mana. I guess we'll want to attack probably to make them use up Labyrinth mana or force what they've got in hand. So yeah, they could have a ton of different blue things here. So maybe we just destroy the Oracle and try to attack through it. Or potentially just get punished by not forcing them to spend their mana first. Yeah, okay. So let's see, can we use Feat of Resistance? No, man, that is a lot of things. Wait, so we can at least, yeah. So the tokens, meaning that we're going to take a long time chewing through these, but, or wait, we do get them very low on life total though beforehand. So they're going to have to figure something out pretty quick. Okay, so the Radiant Fountain, if they gain any more life, then they're out of 1 hit from Snapdax range. So I guess they probably have a lot of options here. I would imagine they do, since they've been oracling so many times. I would hope that their hand is, well, I wouldn't hope that their hand is pretty stacked, but I would assume it is. I'm not sure what answers are here in blue for them to use on us. Back in the day, this would be when you'd see Agent of Treachery. Really glad that rotated out of regular Brawl. Okay, so Shark Typhoon would be really bad for us, but luckily we have this Banishing Light to deal with it. So we can get rid of the Typhoon before they get sharks out of it. And then we can just bring the beats and force them to lose these tokens. And the Phoenix is really nice too. Ooh, the Vulpikeet we could put on the Phoenix or Snapdax. Yeah, okay. And that's all. So let's just go straight into a game, another game, as soon as the server catches up to us. And see what we get to play against. Alright, so Raida is one of the better commanders, potentially against us, because she comes down pretty quickly. This hand's also not the best. I don't love it. I think I would mulligan, even against a general that couldn't block early aggression. Although Raida does maybe. This is a much better hand. This is great. Yeah, so we can just choose between getting some life linking out there right away or feeding the swarm. But this is good. Oh yeah, this is the black-white pathway, so that's good. So we'll be able to feed the swarm regardless, or play Hushbringer. They're taking a little while. I wonder if they are wondering about whether they should kill our little guy. There's definitely an argument for it, because we can protect things. So maybe this forces their hand, maybe it doesn't. Okay, well, that's pretty embarrassing. So they're going to destroy our all-seed for really no cost to themselves, which is too bad, but then we get to put down Hushbringer knowing that they weren't going to kill it, although they could hit us with like a Bone Crusher Giant or something. But Robber of the Rich is okay, not great for us. At least Hushbringer having lifelink is going to be nice to help us catch up here. I would really like to draw a red source for this Phoenix. Especially with, I think Robber of the Rich is going to just keep getting value for them. Not really worth taking it out when Rada's around. But at least Hushbringer with the lifelink is stopping us from going down too quickly in terms of life totals. Alright, so still not a red source. So we're still just going to keep moving through. We're losing the race, but next turn we can get back into things pretty quickly as long as they don't kill our Hushbringer. Because then Snapdax can shoot something down, and then we're attacking in the air with a big lifelinking flyer. Okay. Hushbringer keeps volunteering to shut down Wildborn Preserver, and it keeps not mattering. But, you know, in another world, that would be really, really helpful. So I think they were thinking about double blocking a potential Snapdax, but chose not to try something like that, or even just single chumpers. So we're going to be able to shoot down the big guy and get in, and now we're winning this race that, you know, for a while we were just way behind on. We are cold to just one big removal spell, but that's okay. We can probably rebuild from that using Agademe or something similar. They also might be stumbling a bit on mana here, which would be too bad for the quality of the game, but nice for us winning. So, okay, and that's it. So, there you have it. Kind of only a semi-game here. We'll do another one. That one, you know, they're low on mana facing down a giant lifelinker. They either had to draw a land and something big, or hit us with a removal spell that they must just not have had. So, get into another game. And, okay, this is against the Cleric with, I think, the Scrap Trawler ability. So, this is a very aggressive hand, but it doesn't really disrupt much. But that's okay. That's just something that you're going to get sometimes with Snapdax. So, you know, if they combo off or do something crazy, Speaker of the Heavens is pretty good. And Murderous Rider is a nice draw here, just for the disruption's sake. So we can make it really big Vulpikeet. And then, who knows? And then Insatiable Hemorrhage is kind of nice as far as reach goes. So just figuring we're probably not going to use that to kill anything anytime soon because of the double red, so may as well play it down and then Vulpikeet as soon as we can. And this is a nice trick to get rid of a guy who can really be an issue once they start tapping that for value. So now the question is, do we want to start draining them or hitting them? I think hitting them with +1/+1 counters is better, and then we just grow so quickly at this point if they don't have a way to deal with it right away. You know, like if we draw a land here, we just hit them with an incredible amount of, well, not anymore, but in the dream world we do that. But a little bit of ramp here is nice, and then we can also play a 3-drop if we want to, whether it's the Rider or the Banishing Light. Veto can kind of be a bit of a, I think there's some combos with it, so it's worth killing sooner rather than later, I think. No reason to kind of hold out for a juicier target with Murderous Rider in case, I can't remember what the combos are with Veto, but they can be worrisome. So Agademe is pretty nice here. Vulpikeet being 4 is a little bit disappointing. But I think it's worth trying for a little bit to maybe get extra value out of Agademe's Awakening. I might be wrong. It might just be good to play it. Who knows? So we'll see if we get lucky. We might. We need, what, 3 so we need 2 more lands. We're not really under pressure to put down a ton of power onto the board anyway, and we can Snapdax next turn, so why not wait, especially if this might go long. And who knows what our opponent's doing. They might not have a land here either. Yeah, if they did, they chose not to play it. So this Plains is great. So now we're just 1 land away from getting a ton of value off of Agadeem's Awakening. We're shooting stuff down with Snapdax, draining them. This is great. So I think just kill the bigger thing. And if they want to chump block to gain life, they can, but oh, that's disappointing. Not really worth it to try to hold out for a huge Crypt of Agadeem taking back Snapdax. Might as well just play it. So now they can Scrap Trawler us, but Core Blade Master is a really nice pickup here. Even though the double strike is kind of pointless as far as doesn't add anything to Snapdax. It does if we draw a different mutator later on in the game. And so now we can just kill stuff with Murderous Rider. We can hold off the Null Priest. Well, I guess we can't if it has Menace. Yeah. And the lifelink off this Null Priest is a little bit unfortunate, but it's not too bad. They're also ahead on cards against us, but we have a lot of ways to try to catch up there. That's nice with their Scrap Trawler ability. That's a nice find. Alright, Elspeth Conquers Death is a great draw. They don't have the best targets for it, but I think it's worth it just to get the clock going quickly on reanimating something for ourselves, especially with us losing the race right now. It's just a 2-for-1 almost every time you play it, and with us being behind on cards. Still really hoping for this high value Agadeem's Awakening. We'll see. Okay, that's a pretty good Doom Foretold for them. So they can have their veto back. Because now we have a couple options to have a pretty big turn here. Yeah, so we can get things at plenty of spots on the curve with this Agadeem's Awakening. And I think the Vulpikeet is better than the Hemorrhager. Having flying is nice. And now we're kind of ahead of them on the Doom Foretold count. So yeah, anytime you can make your opponent sacrifice their own Doom Foretold, you're playing a pretty good game. And then we get to reanimate the Hemorrhage guy with Elspeth Conquers Death. Yeah, and they see it too. So, alright, so there you get a sense of how the deck plays. It's not as unbeatable as it looked in those 3 games. I know, one of my opponents stumbled a bit on mana, and we never faced a pure control deck. But as you can see, it functions really well and plays out really smoothly. So it does put a lot of pressure on your opponent to execute their plan really nicely. So if you do play this a bunch and fall in love with it, how easy is it to expand to EDH? So it is, a combat damage deck, which is always a little bit harder in EDH, but still totally doable. You've got a few options that sort of ramp you up while also providing mutate targets. So the best one I could find was the 3 Mirror. Normally I don't advocate creature ramp in EDH because it dies so quickly and then you don't have it. But here you need to keep a critical mass of mutate targets, so the Mirror are perfect, right? You can put them down on turn 2 and then play them to then really early use Snapdax to make them huge and then also shoot something off the board. Card advantage is a little bit tough because all of the really nice 2-mana card draw creatures that exist for black, most of them are human. So you do get some okay substitutes. Ruin Raider is a really nice one that fits really well with this deck, but otherwise I think you want to rely on some of the enchantment stuff, you know, Theater of Horrors, Phyrexian Arena, stuff like that. Now, when you looked at our section of, you know, what sort of 1s and 2 drops that you could see, Hatebears were, you know, the main option I was looking for there, and you could see they were pretty effective in the games we played as well. Hushbringer did some real work. So I would say things like Land and Arbiter, I mean, there's just a ton of good non-human Hatebears that you have access to once you go into full EDH. And, you know, cards like Spectral Links can also make it so that if you want to, you could build Snapdax totally as Cat Tribal. There's a ton of stuff with white and black and a little bit of red, not as much with red, for use in Cat Tribal. And then the equipment theme works nicely with Snapdax because, you know, who doesn't want to pump that giant double striker? So there you have it. There's the deck. Here it is in all its glory here. Again, you know, don't sweat the exact details. I will put a link to my deck list in the description, but, you know, some of the things around the edges aren't too important to copy exactly. But it's a really great time, and it works pretty well. So let me know in the comments if you've run Snapdax or what other mutators, since a lot of them can use a similar strategy to this, what other ones you've had success with. And of course, don't forget to leave a like down below or subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be returning to Warcry content for my next video, but I will keep coming up with, you know, occasional Magic content as well on this channel, so keep your eyes peeled. So until then, have fun shuffling.